This conference will now be recorded.
Now we're ready.
All right, so this is our fourth check-in for calculating plow cycle time from AVL data. And you can go to the next slide. Today we'll discuss the current status. We're going to walk through the framework document, just at a high level, what each section entails. If anyone's had a chance to look at it, we can definitely take comments now. Otherwise, we'll set some time periods for you guys to review and provide feedback. And then we will also do the demo of the proof of concept online tool that was built to show how something like this would work. And then we'll talk upcoming tasks. Next slide. So for current status, we have completed the first 3 tasks, and we are hopefully finalizing soon the 4th task, the online tool framework, which is what we're focusing on today. And we have already started, but we will continue to wrap up and get the final report drafted and the final webinar built. So from the schedule, these are kind of the tasks that we're focused on finalizing and completing and and we're working on. So again, the online tool and framework are in draft form, and the final report and presentation are in working form. Now, as you can see, we kind of originally had set it for October, but we're a little behind schedule on that. Luckily, we have plenty of time contingency schedule built into the contract. So we're shooting for December, January to wrap everything up, which still gives us plenty of buffer till the contract's over, and we are okay on budget. So little behind schedule, but we're still okay, and it's not going to affect anything or require any contract mods. Next slide.
Yeah, this one really quick. I'll just say that
Okay.
I always forget about this one. It was set up weird. I think this is one of the projects that were set up weird from the beginning, and that it had like an extra 6 months worked into the end of the contract for some reason, beyond the end of the deliverables. So the deliverables end October 31, but the project or the contract doesn't end until April 1, 2024. So yeah, we're definitely
Yes.
good. We have a
Yeah.
built-in
So
safety net.
yeah. Yep. That's helped us out. So we'll be plenty okay on the schedule side, and we're okay on the budget side. So I think that's what matters. All right, so I'm going to have Laura walk through the framework document that you guys should have the draft of, and we can then go through um, the online tool. So Laura, you want to go off mute?
Yep, thank you, Mallory. Yep, so as an overall reaching goal
Can
from
you
the
zoom in a
project.
little bit? Sorry, just so we can see the headers a little bit better. Thank you.
Yep, so for the project team, this online tool framework, our objective is really to provide an outline for data conversion processes, provide also all data requirements in terms of the geodatabase and what attributes should be at minimum included, also different platform hosting options, and a roadmap to developing a wireframe tool. So this, moving on to this next section here, we're talking about the requirements, and that is highlighted here in this visual. So really incorporating different various data sources, normalizing the data, cleaning up the data, formatting, and then incorporating processes, the algorithm behind the calculations, and outputting into a visualization. Yep, so this table kind of talks a little more in depth about the architecture of our cycle time tool. And this next section also goes into more detail of what data ingestion process looks like and processing and getting it to that final output. And then this next section, the project team discusses the extract, transform, and load process in the context of the dashboard. So extracting the data from various data sources, transforming it, cleaning it up, and loading it onto a dashboard. And this next visual really highlights those processes and the more in detail steps for that. Yep. And then this table highlights all the different forms of ETL options, including customizing your own script, using different ETL tools, spanning from cloud-based or more flexibility using open source ETL frameworks, and then other options as well. And then this following section really touches on the data type requirements, and we provide sample geodatabase, how it should look at minimum. So our first requirement is a roadway segment geodatabase. And at minimum, we are looking at a road ID, some segment lengths, or segment width and segment lanes. We also provide optional enhancements for the geodatabase. So if you want to include shoulders and medians, that's also an option. And the next data type that we require are truck or equipment data. And at minimum for that, you would need a truck ID and plow and treatment width. And our third requirement is a snow and ice treatment route geodatabase. So that would include route ID, some start latitude and start longitude. So from the transform phase of the extract, transform, and load processes, this could look like separating latitude and longitude values and incorporating into a format that is compatible with the geodatabase. And we also require an AVL data source that could be real-time data or historical data. And at minimum for that, we do require latitude, longitude, date and timestamp, and some optional enhancements as well. And lastly, we provide the option for weather data to be an enhancement. So for that, you're looking at latitude and longitude, segment ID, date and timestamp, and some optional precipitation, wind, and temperature data. And then some storage options that we provide as considerations are data volume and size, data structure, some scalability requirements, security and compliance, any budget constrictions, and support from community. And here we provide some data storage options. Ultimately, we recommend a combination of storage options based on the diverse nature of the data. So we're looking at a relational database, a NoSQL database, cloud-based storage, an in-memory database, and data warehousing. And this next section sort of goes over different platform and hosting options. We have Power BI, Tableau, Esri, ClickView, Google Data Studio, and we the project team eventually does incorporate Esri as a platform, but we do include various other options ultimately that fit the client needs. Moving on to the next section of development and testing stages, we discuss what the wireframe and mockup stage entails. And in this stage, the data visualization step is highlighted here with the interface visualization. And this next section here is the methodology and case study. So our cycle time calculation. This is essentially the backbone of our dashboard and entails the algorithm that the dashboard is built on.
Yep, and they have seen this in other check-ins.
Awesome.
All right,
Sounds
thank you,
good.
Laura. Any questions or anything that you all think is missing, or if anyone's had a chance to already review that you have any comments on this?
So this is Greg. Laura, do you mind muting yourself while I talk, or others? Thank you. So I know a lot. I know a lot of the folks are after they got back from Clear Roads. A lot of them have been going through their winter maintenance training to start off the season, and so I wouldn't be surprised if folks still have not had a chance to review this in depth yet. I know that this is a time of year that is actually even more busy than wintertime for some folks. So I'll kind of preface it by saying that, but I do look to see if anybody here that's, and we only have about half the committee on here, but if anybody does have any comments, we would be certainly willing to listen to you guys, and if you want to jump on camera or not, I'll leave it up to you. In the process, we did have a couple folks join us. Go ahead.
Greg and committee members, I want to point out one thing is that the document, the framework document we submitted earlier, there was some formatting issue. And so the document may not look right. And so we catch that problem a little bit later, and now we fix it. So what Laura shared on the screen is the clean version. The one we submitted has some, as I said, formatting issue. So Greg, I think we are going to send you an updated version, and the content is the same. It's just that we eliminate those errors in terms of formatting, and maybe it will be. I think that will be a better document for everybody's review.
Okay. I was scrolling through it, and I'm doing it right now again, and I didn't even notice it. Any content errors, or not content errors, excuse me, but formatting errors.
I think there figure one, for example, can kind of show up 2 or 3 times, and there were some text highlighted in the different ways. I think it's only on the
Yeah.
first 2 pages.
Oh, okay.
Yep, thanks, Ming. I thought about that when she was scrolling through and was going to mention it at the end. But yeah, we'll get you a clean version, and you guys can review it. And I think towards the end of our slide deck, we talk about the timelines to provide final comments. So we can look at the online tool demo through Hero next, and then we can go back to the slide deck and come up with some timelines for final comment deadlines. So Hero, or Greg, can we give him sharing options and he can share the dashboard?
Okay. Hi everybody. Thank you, Laura, and everybody. Okay, let me share my screen.
Hold on. I'm going to give it to you right now, Hero. There you go. You should have it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Screen. Oh, okay, gotcha. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Right now? Okay. Okay. So here you go. Yeah. So this is a ProCycle dashboard demo we developed. And this time we used Esri products, both ArcGIS Pro, which is a desktop application, and this one is a cloud-based application called ArcGIS Online. And ArcGIS Online has several applications, and we picked the dashboard application this time. And we download the data, AVL data from CTDOT website. And this time we used January data, which is 23rd to 24th. And this is a demo. It's okay. So, so this side, let's see. So
Yeah, so
this
we just
section
pulled
is,
sorry, Hira. I just want to say we pulled some sample data from, as you can tell, New Hampshire, because we
yeah,
had access from another project we're working on with them. So we just pulled a small sample. So when you come in here, there is a how-to guide, just so you're not clicking on a bunch of dates and wondering why there's no data. We only have a small window of data for the proof of concept.
yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Mary. So yeah, so as you can see, basically there are three parts here. The left section is the selector, which is kind of filter. And this one is the map section. You can see the legend and the map. It's an interactive map section. And this is a result area on the right pane. So there are three parts: filter, map, and result. And first thing you need to do is select which shed you are interested in. This time we load the data only 324, so we're gonna show you the 324 right now. Pick up 324, and you can select the route. For example, like C looks like this, D looks like this, F or something like that. And this time we use B for this demo. And before going further, I can show you you can change the background. They have several base maps here. So sometimes you want to check with imagery, like aerials, or like streets. You can do that. You can change the background as needed. There are several options here. And I guess this time let's go with the streets. And yeah, we use B as an example, as a route. And this time, we're going to pick up the date 23rd, January 23rd, 2023. It's actual data. And as you can see, there's results coming up here. And there's a function here in the map. This is a selection tool here that you can click. And if you zoom in where you're interested in and pick up the area, so that the tool gives you the results for that area. So for example, this one, the average cycle time of this area you just selected, 2.3 minutes. And total cycle time by vehicle, it's gonna be 3 and 1.6. And there are two segments here, which are 17861 and 147907 right now. And both results look like this. And you can see the detailed cycle information by segment, which are this. And this completed yes means the pro cycle ratio we used, it becomes over 1. So as you can see in the Word document, I think there is a thing called pro cycle ratio. And if that value becomes over 1, it's going to be yes. The flag changes to yes, which means this section were completed.
Zero, yeah, from the methodology, if you remember, we are using a ratio of how much of the road is cleared on each pass, depending on treatment type and the truck's capabilities, which is why we have those different databases. So
Right.
the algorithm will pull which truck it is and however you have it set up. For us, we have a couple settings, but based on the treatment type that's being shown from the AVL data, we can say, okay, this is treating with just salt. The salt spreader's up to, say, a level 5, which means it's covering a lane and a half, or whatever various data sets you have, and then that will compare it to the length of the roadway to get a ratio. And then as more passes happen, whether it's the same truck or multiple trucks, that segment of road will eventually hit a 1, being completely treated. And that's where Hero's algorithm then is every time it hits that 1, it's clocking it as a completed cycle, and it's doing it throughout the day. So you can have multiple examples and you can drill down to a route or into an individual segment.
Right.
Yep,
Yeah,
go ahead,
basically that's
Joe.
the everything you can see here is not that complicated, and you can turn on, turn off the layers here, and as I say, you can change the base maps from here.
Yeah, the user interface is straightforward. Joe, you had your hand up? I can't hear you, Joe, if you're talking. Maybe put it in the chat if,
Yeah, I can't hear you.
yeah, I think the audio might need changed on the settings. Any other questions while Joe gets that straightened out? Along with the framework, we provided a user guide for this dashboard, so you guys will have a link and a login to come in here and mess around with it yourselves. Again, it's a small sample size, so you'll kind of have to follow the how-to to make sure you get to a point with the data itself, but you can kind of spend a little bit more time making sure that it's working the way that you guys envisioned a sample plow cycle time tool to work. Again, just small proof of concept. Obviously, we didn't pull in all of the equipment settings and all, equipment database and a full roadway database, but we used some of the data we had and then made some sample data as needed. So just for that proof of concept, make sure our algorithm is working properly and we're getting those full cycles calculated.
Joe, are you, is your audio working yet? If it isn't, again, as Mallory said, go up to that little gear at the top right, and then you can select your audio, camera, and uh, those kinds of things. That way, you can actually speak to us.
Yep, and the username and password are in the user guide, the how-to guide.
Yep. That was a question from Mike Madison.
Yep.
Hey, remind me, I was going back through some meeting minutes as you guys were going through this, Mallory, and tell me again, or remind me, how is this going to be delivered to Clear Roads? Is this something that it's going to be a packet, like a zipped file of, a package, or is this an online tool that you guys are going to host? I cannot remember, to save my life.
Yeah, this is
We've got
just
a
a
couple
proof
of
of
these projects.
concept tool. Yeah, so I mean, it's not going to be helpful to anyone, and the goal is for them to use these things as jumping off points
Oh, that's right.
to
It's more the
develop their own.
framework. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it'll just be the framework, the final report, including like the methodology used for us to build this. We can
Yeah.
obviously,
Okay.
provide any information you guys want on this particular tool that we use, but everyone's AVL data is going to be slightly different and have different variables, and depending on what platform they want to use. So we're more than happy. We built the algorithm, through this project, so it's yours. But the framework should help guide anyone into developing something similar, um, whether it be its own dashboard like this one, or if they integrate it into something else. The concepts are all there and the methodology to build it.
That's right. I remember now. I'm sorry. We've got a couple projects that are somewhat similar in
Yep, no
terms of
problem.
the final deliverable. So I was mixing this up with a different one. Joe, can we hear you yet? It seems I'm not getting the audio to work. Does the system only use the spreader
Does the
information, or
system?
does
No,
it
it can
require
use.
a plow sensor also?
It doesn't require. It's basically it's kind of that use what you have. So if you didn't even if you don't have any hydraulic information, or you don't have any plow information, you can use it. You can build a very basic. Obviously, it's going to make a lot more assumptions, right? So it's not going to. It's maybe we'll just say assume the truck width treatment width is 11 feet, 12 feet, and assume that when it's out during this time of day, now it's treating. The more sensors you have on your trucks, the more complex, more if-then statements you can build into the algorithm. So you can build it out. So if this spreader is set to this, or if you could just simply do spreader on, and this is the treatment width, or you could say spreader on plus these settings, and you can have it so that you have basically a data set that says truck number, treatment types, and what that width is based on what the treatment sensors are feeding you. But you can also scale it down or scale it up. So if you have all the data, that's great because it's going to be more accurate. Login isn't working for me. Okay, let's try. Let me double check the how to make sure it's working. Okay, thanks. API to. Yeah, so the API to AVL interface is going to depend on the vendor, and there's information in the framework on various tools to extract and bring it in. So it's just going to depend on that, and that's kind of the point of the framework. Yes, so this data set has some information for spreader data, and plow data, as David mentioned. And we were using like ignition on was one of the variables in Skyhawk, so we were using that as a way to start the clock
Right.
and then end the clock, as well.
Oh, and yeah, insurance.
But the framework will outline various ways to bring in that API. Yep. I want to
Sure.
make sure. Oh, it's working now. Okay, so we
Okay,
got the.
sounds good.
Okay, I was about to say let's make sure everyone can get it logged in, but it looks like Mike got logged in. Okay, good.
Great.
If anyone else has issues logging in, feel free to email us, and we'll work with you one-on-one, make sure you get in. And again, if you bring in, we put in a lot of those optional things. So like if you wanted to, how did you use the ignition data? So ignition data was just, there was a line in your AVL code, David, that would basically say when the ignition was turned on or when it was turned off. So like, let's say they were out treating and they never finished a full cycle, but then they go back to the garage and turn off its shift change or something like that. That would actually kick it off to start a new cycle ratio calculation. So it was kind of a starting and end point for the algorithm to know when to start the clock for the ratios. Okay, I think I got most of the questions, but I'm sure there'll be more as you guys review. So feel free to document. You guys can take screenshots and put comments, whatever is easiest to relay. Any comments you do have. Again, this is just a proof concept tool, so it's not, like if you guys were deploying something, you could enhance it with weather data. Bringing in a weather data feed will then allow you to know what cycle time is based on, it's more filters, right? More ways to slice the data. So you could say, well, what was the cycle time average when we had severe event versus a light event? So you can keep kind of enhancing it with more data sets as you wish. Dave, I think you went on unmuted. Did you have a question?
No, I was just figuring out how to turn my microphone on. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
I think I figured mine out too, Dave.
Okay.
I got tired of
Hey,
typing.
it's Joe.
You're probably lucky. I could ask questions all day, but I won't.
Oh, that's good. We welcome that.
So
All right.
on our geotab system we're implementing right now, we have a route completion portion of that we're probably not going to use. Would that be something that you could pull out of an API from like a geotab or Simsar or whatever company it might be that would integrate into this as well?
Yeah, I mean, or maybe they're kind of doing it, it sounds like potentially, maybe not to the level we are, or we could with this concept, but definitely has possibilities. And
Okay.
that's where
And I
again it's what matters to you. Like if you don't care about shoulders, then maybe you don't include that in your width. But maybe you want to know what from shoulder edge to shoulder edge, and you want that to be included as as a part of the treatment for a completed cycle. So it's going to be mix match whatever you guys want. So I'm not sure how the geotab's doing completed roadway, but it could be something similar to this, or something that definitely could be utilized within this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think David has question.
Yeah, so my question is, so if you have a multi-lane road and let's just say it's 2 lanes or even 3 lanes, during certain times of the day, we might run a single truck up each lane because that's what we're doing to treat the road versus right during other times of the day when there's less traffic, sometimes we'll have that truck run up the middle or basically take the white line and stick it in the middle of the truck, and it's going to treat both lanes by turning the spinner up. How does that account for that? How are you able to
So
tell if it's treating two lanes or if it's treating 1 lane?
So that's where I said, like, the more sensor data you feed it, you can kind of decide what that treatment width is. So if you're saying that, well, so it's done by the road segment. So if 2 trucks are driving on it, they're going to have their own quote unquote treatment width associated with that truck, and it's going to account those towards that cycle time ratio. So that won't matter. If you have 1 truck, it'll just do one at a time. So it's done at the road segment level, so it's not truck dependent. What does happen as soon as the truck enters that road segment, it's going to identify that truck from your truck database, and from your truck equipment database, you will have decided based on what settings it has what that width is. So if you say this truck has a 12-foot blade, when they put it down, it's approximately 11.5 feet because it's tilted, or we want to say that's the treatment width when the plow's down. So that's now your treatment width. And then if you say, well, if the plow's up, let's say, but the spreader's on and its setting is, the setting is 5 or 3 or whatever, then you put in your database what that treatment width should be then. So the tool is only going to find the truck that when it hits the segment, and then from there look at that database to pull what that width is based on the if then statement. So if the plow's down, this is the treatment width. If the plow's up and these are the various salt spreading, these are the treatment width. So it's going to be if then statements based on the sensor data you have available and how you set up your database for the truck and equipment. So basically think of a column that has all the truck IDs, and then a column for the treatment width under this scenario, the treatment width under this scenario, and then the algorithm's just looking at which scenario meets that criteria to pull which the treatment width is. Does that make sense? It's not going to be smart enough to know which lanes they're in. So if they're treating the same lane twice versus going across the whole side of the road, but that's just going to be, their GPS isn't that, fine tuned for us to do that. Did that answer your question? Yes. Okay. All right. Any other questions, or we can pop back and do a little closeout?
Right.
I think I
Okay.
got one more. So how does it only goes by the time that the truck was on the route. I get that. So when you were selecting a shed and selecting a route, does a shed have to be selected before a route can be selected? Does it come in succession, or can you just select just a route randomly from the interface, or does it have to be kind of
Oh, yeah. In this tool, yeah, you must
order?
select the shed first. So shed,
Okay.
route, date. Yeah, something like that.
But you could set up your filters how you want, because
Yeah,
Hero,
you
you
can
can just
select. Uh-huh.
click on a segment of road, right? And it'll zoom into that
Right.
segment of
Yeah.
road.
Yes. Yeah.
So you could
Okay.
easily set up your dashboard to not slice and dice it certain ways.
Yeah.
But for this particular one,
For
it's
this
set up
particular one, yeah.
to filter down. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have to switch the sharing
Yeah.
again back to
Okay.
Laura, or does she still have rights to do that to get back to the slide deck? Or I can switch, or I can take
No,
over.
that's right.
I
I
stopped
got it.
sharing.
All right, Laura's got it again.
Laura, can you put on the slide deck again? And I can walk through it. Do we lose you, Laura? Or can I share? I think I can share. Oh, there we go. All right, go down to there. Stop. So we did that. Okay, walk next one. Sorry. Yep. Next one. Okay, so there's your login username, but again, it's on the how-to guide. And this is kind of the data set that's available, because we're going to share the slide deck, so you'll have this information as well. Next slide. Upcoming tasks. So right now is basically finalizing the documentation and making sure that the proof of concept sample tool kind of is what you expect. And if you guys have any other questions on that, we're happy to answer them. So we'll come up, we can set a timeline. Greg, do you have any thoughts on when you want some comments back from the committee?
Well, I guess I would open that up to the subcommittee and see what they're comfortable with. I mean, granted, we don't have everybody, but if we get these folks to let us know how much longer they need, then I would assume most people would agree with that.
Is 2 weeks too soon? You want to do like November 3rd? Or do you guys think you want a little more time with this busy time of year?
Personally, I would take a little more time. It's up to me, but
Okay.
I know I'm new on this, so.
But
Should
yeah,
we?
there's a couple
Yeah,
people
more
different.
time would be good.
Okay.
So we're looking at
Maybe the
so
10th or the 17th, mid-November, before the
I would even
holidays.
say, yeah, I would even say the 17th probably.
Okay, we'll do the
And we,
17th,
yeah,
and we can keep working on compiling the final report anyway, so it's not like we won't have stuff to do on our end.
yeah. And we've got, like you said earlier, we've got the time in the contract. So I think what we should do, it doesn't need to be, because there's no change of contract end date, but we should submit a quote unquote letter to file, which is simply the amendment with a revised task schedule, just so MnDOT knows when to expect the various deliverables. And doesn't need to be like approved. It simply needs to be, basically logged with MnDOT, and then they have it for the records. So I'll work with it. And Tom just gave us a thumbs up. So yeah, I'll
Okay,
work with you guys on that. So
we can do that. All right, and then we will be working to get you a draft final report and us working on the closeout. We had just kind of blanketed put in there January, so might be more closer to the end of January if we're waiting till mid-November for comments on the one task. But we will keep that in mind and kind of figure out our new timeline for that letter.
okay, sounds good.
And Greg, we will coordinate with you. Maybe, remind you to send a reminder to the subcommittee around November 9th or 10th.
Yeah, that sounds good. I appreciate that.
All right, next slide. Just basically saying the next time we plan to meet would be for the closeout webinar, where we'll discuss the final results and overall findings, recommendations for moving forward for deployment and development of your own plow cycle tool. All right, I think that's the last slide. Yep. All right, well, I hope this was a good meeting for those that were able to join, and let us know if you have any issues accessing the tool and if you have any overall questions, but we will wait to get comments back from you in November.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, guys. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments before we sign off? All right,
All
hearing
right,
nothing, we'll say goodbye. Have a great weekend, and I'll be in touch with you, Ming and Mallory, and we'll figure out that revised schedule to end the project.
sounds good.
Okay,
Perfect. Thank you.
we'll see you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right, thanks. Bye.